How was the ride, beautiful?
It was good, my king. You did really well, especially with the slow riding.
Girl, all my life I had to fight to prove my love.
All right, bros and broettes. So for those who follow the channel, you guys already know this is where me and Wifey worship. And y'all know that beautiful cross, man. Definitely have to look at that beautiful cross. Oh my gosh. Man, we worship here at 55 Al Henderson Boulevard, Savannah, Georgia, 31419. So y'all come visit and check us out, man. Now Halloween is tomorrow, so come visit if you dare. That was so lame. Googly. That was a good one. Yeah, man, you give us since I do the dad jokes, do the mother jokes. Give a mother joke. Anyone, just one. I don't even know.
I can't think of one on the spot, love.
I know,
let me
right?
think about it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll say it when I do the sermon notes.
Oh, Wifey's gonna give us a mother joke when she do the sermon notes. Nice. See, I got the dad joke, she got the mom joke. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's just one dad joke for you guys because we got to get into service. Now, this is my original joke, like honest, like for real. I made this up myself. Why did the turkey cross the road? Babe, why did the turkey cross the road? Wait, do you remember my original joke?
What of that?
Uh-huh.
No.
She don't. So she don't. See, she say she loved me, y'all. No. So why did the turkey cross the road? To prove he wasn't a chicken. Wood Nation, what's going on, bros and broettes? Look, man, we had yet another phenomenal service. It's Wifey's turn to give the synopsis of the service. Man, you guys are in for a treat. You ready, Booski?
Yes.
All right, y'all, here come Wifey.
Hi again, Wood Nation. So we continue the series Not Done Yet. And the sermon title for today is God and Shipwrecks from Acts chapter 27. The senior pastor, Pastor Cam Huxford, shared or brought the word today. So he's made several points as well as referencing the Bible. Don't miss what the Lord will try to teach you through this. This will be one of the greatest learning opportunities of your life. So again, don't miss what the Lord will try to teach you through this. This will be one of the greatest learning opportunities of your life. So it sounds very exciting. Anytime we face challenging situations, we can choose to just go through that trial or grow through that trial. So as the well-known Christian rapper Lecrae said that he didn't want to become bitter, but better. So same concept here. So another point, Paul's departure. When it was decided that we would sail for Italy, Paul and some other prisoners were handed over to a centurion named Julius, who belonged to the imperial regiment. We boarded a ship from Adramyttium, about to sail for ports along the coast of the province of Asia, and we put out to sea. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was with us. The next day we landed at Sidon, and Julius, in kindness to Paul, allowed him to go to his friends so they might provide for his needs. And that's from Acts chapter 27, verses 1 through 3. Another point, the impatient disregard for danger. Much time had been lost, and sailing had already become dangerous because by now it was after the fast. And that's from Acts chapter 27, verse 9. So this is building up to the storm, the impending danger. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 12 says, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." Acts chapter 27, verses 9 through 12 says, "So Paul warned them, 'Men, I can see that our voyage is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to ship and cargo, and to our own lives also.' But the centurion, instead of listening to what Paul said, followed the advice of the pilot and of the owner of the ship. Since the harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the majority decided that we should sail on, hoping to reach Phoenix and winter there. This was a harbor in Crete, facing both southwest and northwest." And as we can anticipate, the devastating storm. When a gentle south wind began to blow, they thought they had obtained what they wanted, so they weighed anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. Before very long, a wind of hurricane force called the northeaster swept down from the island. The ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind, so we gave way to it and were driven along. As we passed to the lee of a small island called Kuta, we were hardly able to make the lifeboat secure. When the men had hoisted it aboard, they passed ropes under the ship itself to hold it together. Fearing that they would run aground on the sandboards of Syrtis, they lowered the sea anchor and let the ship be driven along. We took such a violent battering from the storm that the next day they began to throw the cargo overboard. On the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands. When neither sun nor stars appeared for many days and the storm continued raging, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. Wow. And that's from Acts chapter 27, verses 13 through 20. So we see the devastation of the storm and how that impacted them both physically. The ship was falling apart, and then also it impacted them mentally and emotionally because they lost all hope and seriously thought they were going to die and lose their lives. Another point, the dynamic spiritual leadership. Followers of Jesus do the best of things in the worst of times. After the men had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them and said, "Men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourselves this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed." Last night an angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, stood beside me and said, "Do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, men, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island." And that's from Acts chapter 27, verses 21 through 26. So we see the spirit of encouragement working through Paul. And rather than him staying frustrated with the men for not listening to him, for not taking his advice, he encourages them and shares with them the dream that God had provided to him, that they will get through it, that they will have to go through the hardship of the storm, but that they will survive. So that's very encouraging. And plus, God, still has a purpose and a plan for Paul, that he's to stand trial before Caesar. So he is not going to let Paul die, or any of the men for that matter. Sometimes we suffer because we've made a bad decision, like the owner of this ship, as I read. Sometimes we suffer because other people make bad decisions and their foolishness impacts us, like the 270 people on that ship. And notice it was the majority that ruled as well. So sometimes the majority is not wise at all. Many times we as Christians are the minority, but I can't remember which song it was, but it said that God and us as Christians make up the majority. So God and us are the majority. So that's awesome, and it's true. Sometimes we suffer just because sin broke this world and we find ourselves in the path of a hurricane. That's true. But God, if we continue to listen to God, not only will he get us through the storm, but we'll become victorious. Acts chapter 27, verses 33 and 35 says, "Just before dawn, Paul urged them all to eat, For the last 14 days, he said, you have been in constant suspense and have gone without food. You haven't eaten anything. Now I urge you to take some food. You need it to survive. Not one of you will lose a single hair from his head." After he said this, he took some bread and gave thanks to God in front of them all. Then he broke it and began to eat. And that's from Acts chapter 27, verses 33 through 35. So again, Paul continues to encourage the men. He probably saw and sensed their depression and hopelessness because they hadn't arrived to their destination yet. So even though Paul is encouraging them, some of them are also just so fatigued and hungry, and they're looking at their circumstances rather than looking at God. So thank God that God is working through Paul, and Paul is allowing the Spirit of God to work in him to encourage these men. They were all encouraged and ate some food themselves. Altogether, there were 276 of us on board. When they had eaten as much as they wanted, they lightened the ship by throwing the grain into the sea. And that's from Acts chapter 37, verses 36 through 38. Another point, the disastrous shipwreck. When daylight came, they did not recognize the land, but they saw a bay with a sandy beach where they decided to run the ship aground if they could. Cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea, and at the same time untied the ropes that held the rudders. Then they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. But the ship struck a sandbar and ran aground. The bow stuck fast and would not move, and the stern was broken to pieces by the pounding of the surf. The soldiers planned to kill the prisoners to prevent any of them from swimming away and escaping. But the centurion wanted to spare Paul's life and kept them from carrying out their plan. He ordered those who could swim to jump overboard first and get to land. The rest were to get there on planks or on pieces of the ship. In this way, everyone reached land in safety. And that's from Acts chapter 37, verses 39 through 44. So we see that God's plan prevailed, and that they did make it safely. But they endured many hardships. Again, the ship just fell apart. It struck many barriers. They lost the anchors. They went through a lot physically to get to safety. And it's because of the poor decisions, because of the majority, the poor decisions that they made. But thanks be to God, they made it safely. Another point, the miraculous safe deliverance. Once safely on shore, we found out that the island was called Malta. The islanders showed us unusual kindness. They built a fire and welcomed us all because it was raining and cold. Paul gathered a pile of brushwood, and as he put it on the fire, a viper, driven out by the heat, fastened itself on his hand. When the islanders saw the snake hanging from his hand, they said to each other, "This man must be a murderer, for though he escaped from the sea, justice has not allowed him to live." But Paul shook the snake off into the fire and suffered no ill effects. The people expected him to swell up or suddenly fall dead, but after waiting a long time and seeing nothing unusual happen to him, they changed their minds and said he was a god. Acts chapter 28, verses 1 through 6. So we see God working even in this situation, and the people at the time didn't get it. They thought that Paul was going to die because of the viper, and because they didn't see death, then they just assumed he was a god. But no, it was God working in and through him. Again, God's purpose prevails because God still had work for Paul to do. The apostles worked miracles to substantiate the message about Jesus. Jesus predicted in Mark chapter 16, verse 18, that the apostles would work miracles and take up snakes in their hands and not be hurt, and put their hands on the sick and they will get well. Acts chapter 28, verses 7 through 10 says, there was an estate nearby that belonged to Publius, the chief official of the island. He welcomed us to his home and for 3 days entertained us hospitably. His father was sick in bed, suffering from fever and dysentery. Paul went in to see him, and after prayer, placed his hands on him and healed him. When this had happened, the rest of the sick on the island came and were cured. They honored us in many ways, and when we were ready to sail, they furnished us with supplies we needed. Look at God taking care of his people. That's awesome. Spiritual leaders lead the way, as we see from Paul's example. Spiritual leaders talk about what they're doing, but they also do what we're talking about. So they act in faith and in deed. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18 says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So true, because Paul could have complained in so many ways. He could have been bitter and stayed bitter toward the men who did not listen to him and decided to continue sailing into the storm, but he did not. He's kept his focus on God, and because of his positivity and thankfulness to God, his witness impacted many people, including the men on board who later became encouraged. Spiritual leaders are loved. And in closing, I'd like to read a quote from Father Michael Judge, who says, Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say and keep me out of your way. And I really like that that quote, because God has a plan for each of his followers, and we're to be obedient and sensitive to God and to God's voice. He uses his word, he uses his people, he uses circumstances to reach us and to talk to us and to teach us. And when we are obedient, one of the ways we can be obedient is not only just following God and listening to God, but also to stay out of God's way, even when we want to take control of a situation, or when we become fearful and want to run away. The best thing we can do is to stay out of God's way and let him work through us, and he'll do great and mighty things. Stay encouraged.
Hey, man.
Stay out of the way, love.
No.
Oh boy, love.
Awesome job.
Thank you, love.
All right, Wood Nation bros and bros, if y'all been watching the video long enough, y'all know that Wifey says she has her first mom joke. You ready for your first mom joke?
Yeah.
She's about to give it to y'all. Here we go.
All right, Wood Nation. So this is a joke that I made up.
Okay.
And so what did the ghost say after eating his slice of cake?
What did the goat say after?
No, the ghost.
Oh, the ghost. What did the
Yes.
ghost say after eating his slice of cake?
Yes.
I'll be right back.
No.
Oh.
He said, that was boolicious.
Babe, I'm getting lightheaded. That was good. See, babe, that's your original joke?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Boo. Y'all thought my water turkey across the road joke was bad, but this is great. No. Babe, okay. Wow. Hey, should we challenge Wood Nation to put their original jokes in the comments below?
Yeah, I think so. That'll be good.
There you go. Listen, Wood Nation, bros, that was good. Boolicious. Bro, put y'all regular jokes in the comment below, man. Like something only you know what I'm saying, thought of, and boom. That girl. All right, y'all.